I'm balling, making tons of money. I was in the middle of a massive fraud. So I thought, here's what I'm going to do. I'll just create my own borrowers. They now call these borrowers synthetic identities. So I figured out how to get Social Security to issue me Social Security numbers to children that do not exist. I've had 27 driver's licenses in 7 different states, 24 passports. If I get pulled over, I'm not worried. You pull me over, I'm driving as Michael Eckert.
The name doesn't exist, nothing.
No.
How do you usually introduce yourself?
Matthew Cox, former con man. I was #1 on the Secret Service's most wanted list. I was also on the FBI's most wanted list, U.S. Marshals most wanted list. Eventually I got in trouble.
The most wanted man in America at one time,
at
basically.
One point. I also write true crime books. The podcast is about true crime. And
I think that's the name of your podcast too, right?
Yeah, it's Matt Cox Inside True Crime.
True crime, yeah.
And so that's pretty much it. I mean, I do speaking engagements, and then, sometimes my wife and I go on vacation, and I have a very simple life,
Amazing. Tell us, does a day in the life of Matthew Cox? Like, what do you do, in your
now?
Day? Like nowadays, basically.
Oh, okay.
How do you start your day?
So I think I get up at, I always joke around. My wife and I get up at 5 o'clock because she went to prison for 5 years also. Yeah. Basically, we always joke, we get up at 5 o'clock.
Basically, you have a crime family.
I have a crime family, my own crime family. Okay. We get up at 5 o'clock because that's when the guards turn on the lights. Because we were both in prison, that's when at 5 o'clock they would turn on the lights and they'd start counting everybody. So you basically, after...
Put attendance.
Yeah, you figure after I did 13 years, I just can't sleep past 5. So I wake up at 4:30 or 5 anyway.
How was your childhood like? Were you a troublemaker when you were a child?
My mother was a devout Catholic. I was raised Catholic. Okay. So I went to Sunday school, and I went to what they call CCD. My father worked for State Farm Insurance. He worked there, I want to say, 40 years.
Amazing. Made good money. Insurance has good money.
Yeah, back then you made a lot better money than you do now.
Now it's just struggling.
He probably made $250,000, $350,000 a year, and this was 20, 30 years ago, right? 40 years ago. Yeah. He did very well. We were raised upper middle class. My father was an alcoholic. He was what you would call a functioning alcoholic. He would go on, these 2-week drunken, benders. And so he'd be drunk for a couple days, and he'd kind of be able to hide it, but then he couldn't. And then it'd be 2 weeks of him just being a complete drunk and just belligerent and calling people names and just being horrific. And then after about 2 weeks, his State Farm would realize what was kind of going on. Oh. And so they would clean him up, put him in a rehab. Wow. He'd go into a rehab for 30 days or 60 days, and he'd come out, and then he'd be good for a couple of years. And then he'd...
Back to the
same thing. And sometimes he could clean up by himself. He maybe after a week or two, my mother would cover for him. She was an enabler. Oh, he's sick. There's all those chaotic times where we had to all of the kids grabbed what they could carry, put into a suitcase, and then moved out of the house for a week and stayed with a family friend until my dad sobered up, and then we would all move back in and act like nothing happened. Wow. So it was chaotic in that sense. I also went to schools for kids with learning disabilities, so I'm already feeling insecure, and I've got a father that once a year, every 6 months, turns into this asshole and tells me, you're a loser, you're never going to be anything, you're stupid, that sort of thing. He would sober up and apologize, and everything's okay then, but you're a little kid, that doesn't,
you don't understand the world,
Right. So in that respect, it was odd. And then, of course, I went to these schools that are filled with kids with learning disabilities. So I don't have normal friends because the school's 45 minutes away. So I don't have neighborhood friends. So I grew up kind of a loner. Eventually, I graduate high school, and I end up going to college. I went to college for fine arts.
Creative, basically.
Right. I was very creative. And, of course, my father said, you're never going to be able to do anything with that degree.
Old school parents, I think.
You're supposed to get a degree in business or something you can...
Indian parents, typically. I'm Indian, so...
I want you to be a lawyer, start your own business, or be a doctor or something. Yeah. Once I graduated, I worked in insurance for a while.
You didn't like it?
I wasn't good at it.
Okay.
There's a lot of paperwork. Computers were not as easy to use as they are now.
Plus, you got to deal with the clients, the claims, and all
Yeah,
that.
and it's a lot of memorization as far as using the computer, filling out the forms. They're kind of at that point they're going from paper to computers, but the computers are not window based. It's a horrible system.
Got it.
And I didn't do well. And then eventually I ended up working construction. And after a couple of years working construction, I was dating this girl who was getting her degree in finance. And she started working for a mortgage company. And she said, you've got to come do this. You'd be great at this. And so they hired me. And I very quickly realized I was very good at mortgages, very good at finance. I'm 28, 29 years old.
So you're really good at finance. And how did you figure it out? Like just by the first client, or is it like?
No, I think when they gave you like a 3 or 4 day course, and I'm in the middle of the course going, well,
Around what time was this? You
oh gosh, this was 1999, 98, 99. So I'm the only one in there saying, well, can't you do this? Well, couldn't they put their
So
family
your
in
mind was always creative,
right?
Like
So I'm sitting there, and it's so funny too because the instructor would stop and he'd look at me and he'd go, "That's a great idea," or he'd say, "You're going to be very good at this," because I would very quickly say, "Well, look, I understand this is a little bit gray area, but why does this person have to be the first person on the mortgage? Couldn't this person, you know what I'm saying? Do they have an alternative to?" And he would be, say they're like, "Wow, you're talking about just removing the main person." I'm like, "Well, yeah, because you explained what a wraparound mortgage was. Like, can't he have this person qualify for the mortgage and then have them?" And I'd explain it, and they'd go, "That's a good idea. Like, that's creative financing. That's certainly possible." So I realized after I get my first client, and I go in to close that loan, and I had all the paperwork, but I'm new. I don't really exactly know everything, and I'm not really checking everything. So I remember my manager looked through the whole file, and she put one piece of paper to the side, and she said, "This looks great." I said, "What's up with that form?" And she said, "Well, your client was 30 days late on her rent in the last 2 years. She had what's called a 30-day late." And I knew that right then. I knew that was bad. That deal's not going through. They cannot be 30 days late in 2 years. And I was like, "Oh, man." I said, "What can I do?" And she said, even though I knew the deal was dead, and she said, "If I was you," and she pulled out a thing of whiteout and started shaking the whiteout bottle. And she said, "If I was you, I would white it out.
Oh, wow.
Make a copy
You had
of
a
it."
mentor, basically.
My mentor is a fraudster. Make a copy of it, stick it back in the file. She said, "Underwriting will never catch it." And I'm like, I said, "That's fraud. I could go to jail." And she said, "Nobody's going to jail. The worst that will happen is if underwriting thinks you're involved, they'll fire you." And I was like, and I trusted her, and I thought, wow. And plus, by this point, I'm really behind on bills. So I did it. The loan closed a week later. I got a check for like $3,500.
Damn.
That was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
I was
Back
thrilled.
in the day, too.
In Tampa, Florida, 20 some odd years ago, that was a ton of money.
Even today.
Yeah. Well, it caught my truck payment was a couple payments behind. My mortgage was so I caught up on everything. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so the next person that came in the door, that person made, let's say $55,000 on their W-2. But if they made 60, they could get the loan. So I changed the W-2. I stick it in the file, goes to underwriting, comes back, bam.
Were you convincing yourself that you're trying to help the other person?
Oh, of course.
And also
No,
helping
I can
yourself?
very easily justify it. If you're you're criminal-minded, you can very easily justify pretty much anything to yourself.
Anything, right.
I'm helping this person get into a house. They need this house. They're going to pay the bills. They said they can pay. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can justify that.
What's the mindset behind it, too? Like, weren't you second guessing yourself at all? Like, when you were doing it? Like, initially, I guess you had the mentor kind of guide you, and then that sparked a light.
The only second guessing I was doing was the fact that I didn't want to get caught.
That's what it is? Like,
It would, like, if you're thinking,
you probably decided, like, everybody's doing it.
I mean, well, one, of course, that's one of the justifications, right? Like, you have to semi-justify it to yourself. But let's face it, once I got away with it once, you become emboldened by it. You get away with it twice, it's even better. 3, by the 4th, 5th time you've got a loan go through that has fraudulent documents, you start thinking nobody's watching, or I'm just that good. And as far as justifying it like, hey, this person should not get a loan, I always justified it as I'm helping this person.
He's getting a house.
Right. This person, I'm not harming this person. They're getting what they want. They came in my office. They're asking me to help them get a loan. I'm getting them a loan. They said they can pay for it. these people that, everybody's getting what they want. Underwriting wants the file to go through. The lender wants
Everyone's
to lend
happy,
the money.
basically.
Everybody's happy. I'm getting paid. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not thinking that, hey, there's a bunch of actuaries that compiled these underwriting guidelines, and they know they're way smarter than I am, and they know that what I'm doing is throwing a wrench in the machinery for people that it's not that they shouldn't get loans. They don't qualify for the loans, and that they're a much higher risk and probably are not in a position to really be able to pay those loans. This is somebody that should cut back on their bills and rent.
Is there like an example that you give us, like one of the loans that you wrote? Like,
I mean, I have a great example. I have examples the opposite way. Look, for instance, that girl that I got the mortgage for, she ended up, I actually refinanced her house like 2 years later, but that house ended up getting bought by a developer. So she bought that house for about $60,000, refinanced it about a year or two later. About a year after that, that house got bought by a developer for like $200,000.
wow.
So she
made a profit.
She made like, she said, I got a check for like $150,000.
Yeah.
And she'll, to this day, she'll tell you, oh, that changed my life. You really helped me. Nobody lost in that deal, but she did not qualify for that loan. So I'll tell you an example. An example would be Steve Flaherty. Steve Flaherty came to me. This guy's in his 50s, 55. He was probably 50, 55 years old. He was married. And he came to me, had perfect credit. He had a very odd situation with his employment. He owned several companies that were W-2ing him, that he was doing work for, but he didn't really qualify. So what I did was I consolidated. I ended up creating an employer for him.
I see.
So it looked like he'd been on the job for 5 years, and he made plenty of money. He didn't really have a down payment, so he bought the property. I got the property to appraise much higher. We brought the down payment for him and had that money returned to a construction company so we could return our money. And we also gave him money out of the closing, so he had money to fix up the house. Completely structured deal that it was well structured, but absolutely fraudulent. It was illegal, completely broke the law. So he gets into ends up with like 3 different quadplexes. I get him into it in a few months. He ends up buying a house for, let's say, I don't remember the exact numbers. Let's say it's worth $200,000. I get him a loan on the house. Same thing, doesn't put any money down, but he gets in the house. A year later, he comes to me and he says, Matt, I want to buy a bar. And I thought, okay. And he said, I forget what the amount was, let's say 50 grand. He goes, I need 50 grand to put down as a down payment. I said, okay. He said, I've only got a few $1,000s in savings. I think he had like 10 grand, but he needed that for operational capital. He goes, can you get me the 50 grand out of my house? And he just happened to have been in it a year. I ended up getting an appraiser to get me an appraisal, cherry pick an appraisal, by the way, really cherry picked it, really kind of inflated the value, said his house was worth about $250,000. I got him 100% loan. So he walked away with 50 grand. He ended up buying a bar. I changed this guy's life. He's got like 3 or 4 quadplexes he's collecting rent from. He's living in a house that's amazing. He just bought a bar. He's rolling. He's kicking ass. I'd say 2 years later, I'm driving down the street. I got a brand new Audi. I'm balling, making tons of money. I was in the middle of a massive fraud. And I look over, and there's Steve Flaherty sitting on a park bench. And I beeped the horn. I go, Steve. And he's like, hey, Matt, what's going on? He gets up, and I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm taking the bus, man. He said, I'm waiting for the bus. I got to go to such and such. I go, get in. I'll take you. He gets in. I immediately smells like alcohol. And I could tell he hasn't shaved in days. And his clothes it looks like he's sleeping on the street. And I looked at it, I go, bro, what's going on? And he went, I said, where's Lois? That was his wife. Oh, okay. And he said, oh, bro, yeah, she left. She left like a year ago. And I went, what happened? And he said, oh, yeah. And as he's talking, I realized, fuck, he's drunk, man. And he said, yeah, you know what happened when I bought that bar? like it turned out that the liquor license was in the old owner's name. And one day the state came in, they took all the liquor and said I couldn't sell. And it's a sports bar.
Oh shit.
He's like, so then I had to apply to get a new loan or a new license, and that took like 4 or 5 months, and so people weren't coming in
You lose
because
the customer.
they couldn't buy alcohol. They ended up the bar. He started taking money from the rental properties,
and investing it in.
paying the lease,
Wow.
not paying the mortgages on the rentals. They go into foreclosure. He gets evicted from the company. I'm sorry, from the complex where the bar is. His mortgage is behind. Within 6 months, he loses everything. And he started drinking again. He goes, I've always had a drinking problem. And I started drinking. I was under so much stress. And then eventually, after I lost everything, Lois left. She left me. And then I lost everything. And I don't have a job. I'm not working. And he's like, I just been kind of couch surfing. And, I sleep on the street sometimes. And I was just like, I drop him off. I'm an absolute
Do you ever
shock.
second guess yourself?
Not at that moment.
Not that moment. Okay.
It wasn't till years later.
Oh, okay.
I ended up writing a memoir, my memoir. I'm in prison.
Okay.
And I thought about that. And I thought, because I had always been like, wow, I can't believe how bad things went for him. And I had always kind of thought to myself, like, that poor guy, right? Like, oh, well, he started drinking, and that, like that probably led to this and all these things. It was a whole kind of one thing happened to, it was a domino effect. And it wasn't until later on when I was in prison writing my memoir that I thought to myself, no, you contributed to that. Listen, I knew this guy didn't qualify for those loans. I had a fiduciary responsibility to the bank, the finance companies, and my client to be able to say no. And I didn't. All I thought was I justified helping him, but the real motive was by helping him, I get a fee. It's hard to justify helping your client by saying, no, you don't qualify. That's why you have to put down a down payment. That's why you have to have this. Because if one thing goes wrong, it's a catastrophic domino effect that will take down everything you've got.
Yeah.
And if I had told the bank even he's getting the $50,000 out to get to buy a bar, they would have said, no, go get a business loan. That's not why you get a refi. You get a refi to pay off your credit cards or pay off this or pay off things to do with your house, things to do with your... If I told them the truth, and I knew that, so I had him write a letter explaining they were buying a boat and he owed money he had borrowed money from his parents to pay for some loans.
So
and
your mind works like a computer that you find.
Oh, I
certain-
absolutely know what to tell you to get what I want.
That is amazing. Like where did you get that from? Like, is your
Just-
family or friends, or how do you kind of come up with the stories to tell?
No, I was very good at that. I knew I was good at that at the time because it would be 11 o'clock at night and I'd get a phone call. My mortgage brokers used to laugh about this all the time because I eventually ended up opening a mortgage company and I hired like a dozen guys and they would always laugh. They'd go, Matt's always on. And they'd say, you can call him up at 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday night. And this has happened many times. My phone will ring. I pick it up. I go, yeah, what's going on? And I'm asleep. Yeah. I'm not a partier. I'm asleep at 9:30, 10 o'clock. My phone rings. I wake up. Yeah, what's going on? And it'd be Johnny Moon. And he'd say, yo, bro, I'm at a bar right now. I'm talking to this guy. He wants to buy a quadplex. He doesn't have a down payment, but, and he'd say, I don't know. I know there's a deal here. And I go, okay, now wait a minute. Does he have a primary residence? And they go, yeah, well, how much is the mortgage? Oh, the mortgage is this much. When did he buy it? Oh, he bought it 4 years ago. Okay, what's the current property? How much is the quadplex? Oh, the quadplex is going for $400,000. Okay, so we can say it's his primary residence. I can get him a 95% loan. How much will it appraise for? Because if we get it appraised for 5% over market value, we can raise the value, we'll give him his down payment, pull the money back out of closing, send it to our construction company, and now I've got him 100% financing. Matter of fact, if it'll appraise even higher, I can pull money out, pay off some of his credit cards, or give him cash in his pocket. And they would go, great, bro, I'll order an appraisal on Monday, I'll find out exactly how much it's worth, and we'll put it together. I said, absolutely, no problem. He go, all right, thanks, Matt, hang up the phone, I roll over, go right back to bed. Wouldn't think twice. I was working.
And you were getting good sleep?
Of course, all day long I'm
Did you
sleeping
think
all.
about nothing? No problem. Nothing.
No,
Like,
no, I would sleep like a baby, and it'd turn out that most properties can appraise 10 or 20% more than their
Yeah.
people are buying them, and I could easily bear the down payment. And we would convince his current mortgage or the new mortgage company. We'd convince them that the guy is going to live in the property. We'd write a letter. We'd show some documentation showing he's moving. It's closer to his job, whatever the reason is. Better school district for his kid. We give him a reason. They'd believe it. And now I've got 95 to 100% financing when it should have been 80%. So, and these are my brokers. These are guys that have been working in the industry for 5-10 years, and they would call me and say, how can we put this deal together? And I would structure
you're the
a deal.
problem solver, basically.
Right. Very quickly, I could solve the problem.
So were you doing this all for the thrill, the money, or the excitement, or what? Like,
I used to say, it's funny, I used to say all the time, I would say, people would say, well, why were you doing it? I would say for the money. Oh, well, I mean, I needed the money.
yeah.
But here's the problem with that.
After you got the money, but
Right, that's the problem, isn't it? Initially, it was I needed to make enough money to pay my bills.
how much money were you making, like to get like an idea, like
Well, I mean, I would
let's
say
say if you close one account, like how much?
if you close a deal, you might make 3,500 to 7,500.
Wow.
I've had brokers who have made 15 grand on a deal. That's very rare. Typically, let's say it's average of with yield spread where you get a kickback from the lender. Let's say it's 5 or 6 grand on average. That's back then. Those same deals would now probably you'd be making $10,000 easily. So, but I used to always say it was the money. The problem is you say, oh, if I could just get $100,000 in the bank, I'd be okay. And then you get 100,000, and then you say, well, really, if I could get $500,000, that would make me feel more comfortable.
The goalpost kind of moves.
It keeps moving. Then it's then it's $500,000, then it's $1 million, then it's $2 million, and before you know it, you just stop even.
Questioning.
I stopped even deluding myself that it was the money anymore. It was just something. By that point, you've been doing it for years. You're just
Just keep on doing it.
well, you just feel so good about it that, and it's such a rush, it's such a high, and that's such a cliche to say, but it's the truth. And that you think I'm just going to keep doing this because I love doing it. I'm good at it, and I'm never going to get caught,
Wow.
which wasn't the case.
Tell us more about that. Like you were on the run for years, right? Like from the FBI. Like when did you start feeling that you were about to get caught, or like what's going on?
I own that mortgage company, and eventually I get in trouble. I end up getting placed on federal probation, right? So I get caught by the FBI.
Did you get a feeling that you were gonna get caught?
I mean, I got a feeling because somebody else got busted and they cooperated with the FBI, and then I get busted. And so I did not think it was going to catch up to me because these were friends of mine, and I thought everybody kept telling me you're going to get in trouble. They're going to cooperate, and I kept saying, "Oh, they would never. We're friends. We go on vacation together. We babysit each other's kids. They're not going to cooperate." They did. So now I can no longer be a licensed broker or brokerage business owner. I sell that mortgage company to a friend of mine who's an accountant. He's running it. I ended up getting a divorce. And so now it's really just kind of me. So what I did was I decided I was going to start running a much larger scam.
Does your wife know, like before?
She did know what was going on,
a little bit,
but she,
She wasn't part of the business, basically.
yeah, but she didn't get in trouble. So she goes on her way. And what I decided to do is start running a much larger scam. And what I did was I figured out how to.
So after you got caught, you still thought about doing a larger scam?
Yeah, because now I'm a felon. And now what am I going to do? I'm going to go sell used cars? I'm not going to do that. I wasn't going to do that. I
There's
had
more money to be made, basically.
exactly. And I had nothing's going to stop me attitude.
And you weren't scared of the law. You weren't scared of.
I wasn't really concerned because
You're probably young.
I
back in
just
the day.
got caught.
Yeah.
I just got caught.
And
they
they didn't
gave
do
me 3
anything.
years probation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they didn't do anything.
They gave me a slap on the
Basically,
wrist. Like,
basically.
how am I going to,
Yeah.
and I only got caught because this person told on me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, not because
Otherwise-
of anything I did.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's my.
That's your mentality.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So
this time you were doing it alone.
right. So what I decided to do was, I figured I would start flipping properties, right? Like doing rehabbing in this area of Tampa called Ybor City. And so and you could buy houses very cheap there. You could buy them for like 50 grand. This is 20 years ago. Those same houses are selling for 250 now. But so I was going to do it for like, I'll buy a house for 50 grand. You can renovate the house for 25,000. You could sell it for 100. Okay. So I thought I'll do that. The problem in those areas is that people in those areas don't have good credit. So I thought, well, then I'll have to make it look like I'll have to commit some fraud to get them to get the loans. And I thought, okay, well now I'm committing fraud anyway. So if I'm going to commit fraud anyway, why would I commit fraud for you when I could just create a borrower?
Oh, I see.
And then I don't have to worry.
You don't even need the person.
Right.
To
If
be
I'm going to
liable.
make W-2s and pay stubs for you to show that you've been on your job for
Damn,
5 years,
your-
and I'm going to,
Your mind is working like
but I mean, what,
amazing,
look,
creative.
listen, so if you're going to buy that house for 100,000,
Yeah.
I have to deal with you.
Yeah.
You're a pain in the ass. So I have to deal with you going, I have to renovate this property. Then you go in the property and you're like, oh, there's a drip here. This isn't worth it. It's like, what do you, like, you don't have a down payment and you haven't been on your credit sucks and you're a horrible customer and you're complaining because the tile is cracked in the bathroom. Fix it. You didn't even put a down payment down. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't want to have to deal with this guy. So I thought, here's what I'm going to do. I'll just create my own borrowers, what they call straw borrowers, or they now call these borrowers synthetic identities. And the way I did that was I figured out how to get Social Security to issue me Social Security numbers to children that do not exist. I would create a fake birth certificate for a 10-month-old child,
Wow.
a fake shop record, and I would go into Social Security and I'd say, my son was born. He's never had a Social Security number issued. He was born at home with a midwife. Here's his shop record. He's 10 months old.
The name doesn't exist. Nothing. Nobody.
No, the names that I used were names like Lee Black, James Red,
Wow.
Michael White,
Wow. Yeah.
Brandon Green.
The colors of the
Right.
crayon.
They're all from their characters in the movie Reservoir Dogs. Mr. Pink, Mr. Black, Mr. White, which is a Quentin Tarantino movie. And that movie had just come out. Pulp Fiction had come out.
You probably really liked it.
I really liked it. I was a huge fan of Pulp Fiction, but it was too popular, so I went with the colored names. So I would go in there, and then they'd look up this person. They'd look up James Red, and they'd go, "You're right. Your son's never had a Social Security number issued." And they'd go, "Oh, okay." And then you'll have it in 10 days. 10 days later, I'd get a Social Security card. I'd then go apply for credit cards in his name. I'd say he's a 33-year-old man. He'd get denied. I'd go ahead and get secured credit cards. I'd make the payments on those, and after a few months, he'd have a 700 credit score. I'd create W-2s and pay stubs for him. I created a fake online bank to show that he had money in the bank. So you could call the bank, somebody would answer the phone, and they would verify that he had funds in his account.
Wow.
So that you could call his employer, and they would verify that he'd been on the job for 5 years. All of his credit cards were paid perfectly. You could call the property management company where he currently lived, and they would verify that he lives there. Keep in mind, this is all fake. But when the mortgage company or the lender or the bank pulled his credit, it said that he was a living person that had perfect credit, had been on his job. Here's his job. Here's where he lives, blah, blah, blah. He has money in the bank. And so I would go buy a house for $50,000. I'd put $5,000 or $10,000 in it, because keep in mind, it doesn't have to be perfect now. Nobody's going to live there. So I put $5,000 or $10,000 into it, and then I would record the sale of that property, saying he bought the house for $200,000. I could do this by paying extra doc stamps on the loan. It's an extra $1,000. So for an extra $1,000, it looks like he bought the house for $200,000 instead of $50,000. I then clean it up. I apply for a loan in his name to refinance the house. The bank sends by a drive-by appraiser. He just drives by the front of the house. It looks good. And he says, yeah, it's worth $200,000. He says it's worth $200,000 because I didn't just buy one house. I'd buy one house on Columbus Drive and another house across the street on Columbus Drive and another one on 132nd Street and another one on 110th, and I'd record all the values of all those houses at 210, 195.
Just to bring up the value.
Bring up the whole value of the area. So he buys 5 houses. Another guy, Lee Black, buys 5 houses. Another guy named Brandon Green, he buys 5 houses. They all buy the houses for $50,000, $60,000, record the value of the sales of those houses at $200,000. The entire area shoots up through the roof. And over the course of the next 18 months, I borrow $11.5 million in these people's names. I make 3 or 4 payments. I let all those houses go into foreclosure. But no one house has been, it's not like this one guy bought 5 houses and refinanced those houses with one lender. Like, this lender was AmeriQuest Mortgage. This was Mortgage Warehouse.
Proper lender.
These are all, well, they're all different. If you bought 5 houses and refinanced them with AmeriQuest, and all those went into foreclosure, AmeriQuest might have really look into it. But it's just one house, and you made 3 payments, 4 payments, 6 payments.
Wow.
You have perfect credit. And so what would happen is that they would send out somebody, or they would start sending collections, and I would have Brandon Green's sister, his make-believe sister, write a letter, and she would include a news article saying that he had been in a catastrophic accident and was life-flighted to Tampa General Hospital and was currently in a coma, and he would never work again. And that gives them a reason for why he's not paying the mortgage, why when you now call his employer, they say he doesn't work here anymore, and when you call his cell phone, it's disconnected. So they just foreclose on the property. They note that this guy was in an accident. And they go on their business, and they put the house back on the market for sale. Even if they send their own appraiser out again and say, hey, what is this house worth? They say it's worth $230,000 or $250,000 or $210,000. Why? Because I'm still buying and recording the value of these houses higher and higher. I've ripped off the banks for $11.5 million, and they have no idea that it's even happened. At that point, a guy I was working with got in trouble. He got arrested in a bank. He started cooperating. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement put together a task force, and they start investigating me. I'm already on federal probation. And that's when a friend of mine who's a sheriff's deputy shows up and says, look, bro, I used to date this chick that works she's a detective that works for Tampa Police Department. I'm like, okay. And he said, there was a task force that was put together on you, and they was just handed over to the FBI, and they're going to come arrest you in a couple days. And I was like, oh, wow. So I do the right thing. I turn myself in.
Okay.
And no, I didn't. I'm just joking. I actually went on the run.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
like,
I took off on the run.
Like, how long were you in the run?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
And
I stole another $3.5 to $4.5 million.
Within those 3 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I didn't take off with any money. I had like maybe 80 grand in cash.
And you still wanted to pursue this kind of. You basically like the thrill.
I'm already in trouble.
Yeah. Might as well just
I figure I'm
pile it
already in
on.
trouble. I mean, I can't get in. Like, how much more trouble can I get in? I might as well. And I need money. What am I going to do? I'm going to go get a job selling used cars? Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
So how was life like when you were on the run? Like, were you always looking in the back? Or were you like paranoid all the time? Were you like looking out the window? Or were you getting good sleep?
The appropriate answer for that.
3 years, you said, right?
Yeah. The appropriate answer, the answer that people expect, is for me to say, I was worried all the time. I was so stressed out. I couldn't sleep. I was scared. It was horrible. It was just a horrible, horrible situation. The truth is, it was probably the best time of my entire life. It was amazing. I loved being on the run. I enjoyed it. I know nobody wants to hear that. That makes me a horrible person, but it's absolutely the truth.
You were able to showcase your skill at the maximum.
Exactly. And here's the thing. I always say this, is that I'm not some idiot who's driving around in a stolen car with a broken taillight and no driver's license.
Yeah. That's so obvious.
You have to understand that I went on the run, and I said, okay, I'm going to get a ticket. I'm going to get pulled over. I need to be able to prove that I'm somebody. So I immediately put an ad in the newspaper. It starts with an ad in the newspaper. Good credit, bad credit, no problem. Free loan applications available. Call now. People call up, they're applying for a loan, and they just give me their information. That turned into me deciding, what if these people get in trouble? I don't want to steal their identities. I did. I stole a bunch of their identities, but I eventually, for the sake of time, eventually what it turns into is I make a survey, and I start surveying homeless people, because they're not, don't judge me, because they're not using their identities. They're just sleeping under a bridge.
Yep.
And the likelihood that they'll ever know I use their identity is very unlikely. So what I do is I go around, I make a statistical survey form, I walk around to homeless guys, and I go, hey man, I said, if there's a Caucasian that's about my age, I go, hey man, I said, I'm taking a survey. Would you mind taking a survey? And they're like, well, no, I'm not interested. And I'd say, it's $20 right now. It pays cash, $20 right now. You're going to give me cash right now, $20 right now. And they'd go, yeah, man, what's up? So I give them $20. I take down 17 questions. I ask enough information to steal their identity. I then go back to my apartment, go online. I apply for a copy of their birth certificate. I order a copy of their high school transcripts. I register to vote as them. And I order a copy of their social security card. I get all that in the mail. Once I get that in the mail, I go to a state where they've never had a driver's license. I then go into the DMV, I provide my documents, and they give me a driver's license in their name. Sometimes I have to take the written test.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to drive around. Sometimes I'd go and they'd say, hey, this person has a suspended license. They owe $400. Sometimes I'd have to pay a fine to get their license back in good standing. And then, of course, I pull their credit. Sometimes they'd owe $10,000.
Isn't that a lot of work too?
Yeah, but the payoff.
Was better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because now I've got a driver's license. I can get a car in that guy's name. I can buy a house in that guy's name. I can get multiple cars. I can go buy a house in his name.
Okay.
So now I've bought, I would then turn around and I'd go buy like a couple houses in someone's name like that, right? Like, for instance, one guy's name was Gary Sullivan. So I buy 2 houses in his name. I then go downtown and I create what's called a satisfaction of mortgage. So when you bought your house, you have a title in your name and you borrowed money. You borrowed $400,000 from Bank of America. They have a $400,000 mortgage on your title attached to the title of your home. When you pay that mortgage off, Bank of America sends a 1-page document called a satisfaction of mortgage to public records, and they record it. And then all it is 1 page, and it says that you paid off your mortgage, and it's notarized and signed by somebody at the bank. Nobody ever verifies that. So I create that document, and I go downtown, and I record those documents on the houses that I bought, and the mortgages that I have on those disappear. So now I'm living in these houses as Gary Sullivan.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I own them outright. Now, do I technically still owe that money? Yes. But Bank of America doesn't know I've done this.
Yeah, doesn't know.
They think there's still a mortgage there. So then I turn around and I go to multiple banks and I borrow more mortgages on those houses. So I end up as Gary Sullivan. I buy 2 houses. I borrow $1.3 million on those houses. I did this multiple times. I've had 27 driver's licenses in 7 different states. I've had 24 passports.
Wow.
I don't think it's 24. I think it's 22. Either way, it's just under 24 passports. And so
You basically gamed the system or the matrix, or broke out of the matrix.
Right. And now think about it. If I get pulled over,
Yeah.
I'm not worried. You pull me over, I'm driving as Michael Eckert. I have a car in the name Michael Eckert. I have full coverage insurance. The cop says, hey, man, you know how fast you're going? I don't know.
You made it legit.
Man? Here's my driver's license. Give me a ticket. I got so many tickets in one guy's name, I had to go to driving school as him because I was about to lose the license. So, and I'm not worried. Why am I worried? I'd have interactions with the cops all the time. And, of course, if you're driving on it's a driver's license. I drive like a maniac. I can go 80, 90 miles an hour. What do I give a shit? If I get pulled over, here's my license. Give me a ticket. What do I care? In 6 months from now, I'll have borrowed $1 million in this guy's name and I'll disappear.
Well, I guess your confidence can't be compared. Some people will just give up halfway, but
I mean,
you push
it's unnerving, really.
Yeah, but
because I look at it now and I'm like, boy, you were such an asshole.
yeah,
like you totally.
Regular people would be like, hey, sorry, just let me go this time.
Oh, listen, when I
around.
eventually get caught, trust me, I cried like a small child. Oh, I gotta get a present.
So, okay, how did you get caught? Like what was the turning point, and then what did you feel when you get caught?
At some point,
how was it?
I mean, it sucked.
After the 3 years run,
Yeah, I'd say so. At some point, I end up dating this girl, Amanda. We're renovating houses in an area of by this point, I'd gone to Nashville, Tennessee, and I'd bought 20 houses and vacant lots. We're building new houses. We're bulldozing houses, building new ones. We're renovating houses. And I realized that she knows who I am. Mm-hmm. I realized that Dateline, NBC News, right? So there's a TV show called Dateline.
Yeah.
They were going to do a 1-hour special on me. And so there was already tons of articles, right? There was already 40 or 50 articles out there. I'd already been on, but the internet is still kind of in its infancy, right? It's 2006 and my face isn't everywhere. So if there's a bunch of articles in the Tampa Tribune, what do I care? A bunch of articles in the Chicago.
Yeah, it's not national.
What do I care?
Yeah.
you know. But Dateline is going to be in everybody's living room, and that's back when people there's not a lot to watch. It's not now. There's not 6,000 channels. People watch Dateline.
Yeah.
So I'm like, holy Jesus, I have to get out of here. So we start refinancing houses, and we're trying to get about $2-3 million and just leave. And I was going to go to Australia because Australia had a policy at that time. You could go to Australia if you had over it was like nothing. If you went to Australia with $200,000 and a business plan, they would make you a permanent resident alien. I couldn't vote, I couldn't get a job, but they'd allow you to open
Basically
a business
card, yeah.
and hire Aussies.
Oh wow.
And they didn't fingerprint you. So it's like, oh, okay, so I can just go with a valid passport and a business plan and a couple hundred, and I'm actually going to show up with a couple million. So I'm getting in. So we start doing the process of doing that. And during the process of doing that, Amanda ends up telling her friend of ours, that I'm leaving. We're going to Australia. And her friend contacts the Secret Service. And the Secret Service watched my house for 3 days. And then one day I come home and they arrest me. It sucked. It was a horrible day.
Did your heart drop or?
It was horrible, bro. Yeah. Like that, like heat shot up from my feet to my chest. I started sweating, and all I could. It's funny. Everyone's like, well, "What were you thinking? What were you thinking?" I don't know if it was just the shock of it, but the new 007 movie was coming out with Daniel Craig, the Casino Royale, and so the whole week I'd been saying, Friday we're going to see Casino Royale. She'd go, I know. Amanda would say, I know. So when the cops, where the Secret Service pulls up and pulls their guns, and, get on the ground, get on the ground, I'm sitting there. When they handcuff me and sit me up, and they hold up my photo, and they look, and they're discussing, is it him, is it him? And as soon as they said my name, my first thought was, fuck. Friday, we are not going to see 007. I did see it about 3 years later on the movie channel in the prison movie channel. Okay. So, there's a little consolation.
It's not the same.
It's not the same, I promise you.
It's not the same excitement.
No, it's not. It had a very different feel. But prison was not in my future plans.
You never thought about it at all.
I thought there's no way. Listen, I've been arrested in banks, talked my way out of it. I've been caught by multiple lenders, talked my way out. I've given lenders their money back just to keep their mouth shut. I've been arrested, taken downtown, and convinced them that I hadn't done anything wrong. The bank fucked up, and they let me go. So, I mean, there's many, many close calls, and I've always gotten out of it. So I just kind of got to the point where they're not going to catch me. And I was so determined not to get caught. While on the run, I had a nose job. I had 2 hair transplants. Like this is from the back of my head.
From all the stress that you lost your hair?
Stress. It's not stress. It's genetics. Okay. Anyway, I've had a mini facelift, liposuction. I mean, listen, I had my teeth capped. I mean, everything. I did everything I could not to. These guys, when the Secret Service grabbed me, they had a whole several minutes discussion on, is this the guy? Right guy? Oh, wow. This is not him. One guy's saying, it's him. The other guy's going, I don't think so, bro. I don't think so. Finally, they're like, that's crazy. You're Matt Cox. Like, we're going to take you down and fingerprint you here in the next 20 minutes. So, and I was just like, yeah, it's me. Like, I know I'm done. So.
Yeah, you're already like in their hands. So what was it like in the federal prison, or like?
I mean, it was great. It sucked. Does anybody ever say it was great?
No.
It sucked.
How long were you there?
I was there almost 13 years, just shy of 13 years.
Wow, 13 years.
I round up to 13.
Yep. Okay. So how did it reshape your thinking? Like, what were you doing there? Like, was there any entertainment? You made friends, basically, But
yeah, I mean, I'd say.
Were you still scamming people in there?
No, bro. You scam someone in there, you get stabbed.
You know how some prisons they show in like the Discovery or National Geographic, like you have to belong in a certain group, like whites.
Oh yeah, you mean okay? So that's like in California. So Florida's a little bit different. It's more of a. Well, I'm sorry. So the East Coast and federal prisons is vastly different than the bulk of the country and state prisons. State prisons, it's more like you have to. Guys are like you want to join a gang to be protected.
Yeah.
Right. So I went to a medium security prison, not because I'm dangerous, but because I initially had so much time. And so I couldn't go to a camp.
Okay.
I had to go to a medium. And in the medium, they have it set up where they call it cars. So you're in somebody's car. If you're not a gang member, you can be in a car. I wasn't really in a car because look at me, bro. I'm as soft as cotton. I'm not going to do much for your gang.
Yeah.
I could keep your books. Like that's it.
Give
I'm
your
not
paperwork.
Yeah, I'm not.
I can record whoever owes you money.
Yeah, I'm not stabbing guys in the yard during a riot.
Yeah.
So, and keep in mind too, I worked in education. I was a GED tutor. So during the day, I was a GED tutor, 5 days a week, and then during the weekends, I tutored people, and then at night, I taught the real estate class. So I did that 2 to 3 days a week. And on my downtime, I started writing a memoir, my memoir. So I would say during the course of writing my memoir, I spent probably the first 2 or 3 years complaining. Oh, I got too much time and I don't deserve this. And this is bullshit and I never hurt anybody. And just doing the woe is me crap that most inmates do.
Basically, no self-accountability. Like, why did it happen to me? Like,
Well, I mean, I knew why it happened to me. It's more like, oh, I shouldn't have gotten so much time. They did me wrong. And it's, it's just stupid. And I think most inmates are kind of like this, where, it's everybody else's fault, right? So, and after,
were you at any point religious, like in those?
I was
times?
not. I would say I was not super religious at that time,
Okay.
but I started writing my memoir, and I read several books on how to write memoirs. And in the course of reading those books, it kind of explains that you need to start thinking along a certain lines to be able to pinpoint the things in your past that have helped shape you. It was, I guess the word is cathartic, right? Like you do a lot of reflection. And so the more I started thinking about that, it's kind of like the Steve Flaherty thing. I started thinking like, no, you're not stupid. You knew this was a problem. This could be a problem for this guy.
You were just blinded by.
Yeah. I just justified it away.
Justified.
It's like a burglar who's burglarizing somebody who's rich. Oh, they're rich. They have insurance. They won't even miss it. They got plenty of money. That's such crap. You're breaking into the sanctity of someone's home. It's not about the money or it's not about what you're stealing from them. What you're stealing from them is their feeling of safety and their children's safety. They don't give a shit about that TV. And you're justifying it to yourself, but we're still a scumbag. You're saying I'm not a scumbag, but you're still a scumbag. And I'm just a scumbag. Like I'm a scumbag who's in prison, who deserves to be in prison, that the only person that put me in prison is me.
Yeah.
And I deserve to be there. So, and I even had...
You had that self-realization.
Yeah, at some point, it kind of slowly... It's not like there's a moment where the light turned on, but over the course of several months, you start going, no, I'm supposed to be here. And nobody put me here. I put me here. So that happens, and I ended up writing that book. I had to rewrite it a couple times because I got a literary agent. He gave me a bunch of edits. I rewrote it again. And then I started writing other guys' stories. Other true guys lots of guys in there have amazing stories.
You had paper, or was it a typewriter, or how were you writing?
No, this is all paper.
There's
no internet. So I'm writing all these stories and then I send them home. You have an email style system. It's not email, but it's like email. And I'm able to send it to people, and they then take it, they copy and paste it into Word, they print it out, they send it back to me. I'm able to make edits, and eventually I have a manuscript. So I end up writing 5 or 6 books while in prison. I've written a couple since I got out, and I wrote about over 20 synopses of people's stories, where you have a story, but I don't have 3 or 4 months to write your story. Let's write a synopsis of the story. So it's like twice as long as a Rolling Stone article. I end up getting a bunch of guys a few guys in Rolling Stone magazine. I'm a part of their option their life and their film rights. So I start doing that while I'm in prison because I have plenty of time. And probably in the last few years of prison, I start realizing, what am I going to do when I get out? And guys are coming to me and they're saying,
do those prisoners' story, did they affect you at all? When you were writing them?
Because you realize as the person sitting there talking to you, you realize he's got the same, some of these guys would be like, woe is me, it's not my fault. And of course, I have to investigate your case, right? I order a Freedom of Information Act, so I
verify their claims.
Right. And a lot of these guys don't know. They don't know how they got arrested. They don't know what date they got arrested.
Yeah.
They don't know.
They're just clueless. They never bothered to.
Right, because they pled guilty, because they're super guilty. despite what some of them are like, well, I only did this, I only did that. And then you start reading the FBI 302s or the DEA 6, like they're all these things. You're like, no, they have. I've just read your wire thing. You said this. You said that. You clearly knew that 100 kilos were coming in. Like then they're like, well, yeah, but. And so, you get to
still try to justify it.
Of course. So you start, and not all. Some are like, hey, I'm a bank robber. I rob banks. That's what I do. I like those guys the best. The guys that will just own up to it.
Yeah.
I don't have to figure
straight up, basically.
Right. I don't have to investigate the truth. I just get the truth, and everything I'm getting is verifying that. I'm getting particulars like the names of the agents and things like that from your documents. That's all. So I end up as I'm getting out, guys start coming to me and saying, "Hey, man, you should do a podcast." And I'm like, "What's a podcast?" And they're like, and they have to explain what a podcast, because I've never been on YouTube. I got arrested in late 2006. YouTube came out in 2005. And when I got locked up, I'd never been on YouTube. People were uploading their home movies to it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing. There were joke videos. People were doing
basically
gag
like
videos.
America's funniest videos.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
By the time I get out, there's Spotify, and there's these video podcasts, and there's Joe Rogan, and so people are doing this, and I'm getting out, and people are saying, you have to do a true crime podcast. They're super popular. And so I have to figure out what that is, and when I get to the halfway house, I figure it out. But to go back to your original question, you don't have to join a gang. I never joined a gang. I went to a medium. I was there 3 years. I never joined a gang. Nobody wants me as a gang.
Nobody bothered
Nobody
you.
wants me.
Okay.
I go to the low, and there's gangs, but honestly, listen, if you get to a low, you're not that violent. And I'm not saying that violence doesn't happen, but a low security federal prison is like being in a really shitty high school.
Oh, I see.
Is it dangerous? Yeah, there's some dangerous guys, but you can stay away from them. You don't have to worry too much.
Did you ever have like a roommate or a cellmate?
You always have cellies.
Oh,
There's no one man.
And you guys got along? Pretty cool.
Yeah, I get along with most people. I mean, I'm a clean cut, I'm a clean cut Caucasian. Everybody wants me for a cellie, right? I'm clean. I fold my stuff. I keep the room clean. I don't
take care of it yourself.
I take care of everything. I make my bed. I don't bring heat on the room because I don't have a cell phone. I don't do drugs. I don't do anything like that. I'm never in the room anyway. I work all day. I work all night. So if you basically live alone if you live with me. I'm walking the track. I'm writing. I'm in the library. I'm never in the cell. So everybody wants me as a roommate.
So how did prison reshape your thinking? Did it reshape your thinking at all?
Yeah, of course. It reshaped the appropriate
Was
thing
it
to
the
say.
Isolation situation?
There's no isolation.
Okay.
So in prison, everybody thinks that. They think of prison, they think you're alone and it's quiet and you're locked up in a cell. So it's loud all the time. There's always yelling and screaming, and you're never alone. You pray for loneliness. You're begging to be alone.
Let's say you were with your cellie. Were you ever in that situation where like I can't sleep tonight because this guy's acting up like weird?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
It's not like too crazy.
No. These are, if people are too insane or something, they end up in penitentiaries or they end up in a version of a mental hospital.
Just some sort of safety is there. Okay.
Yeah, there's safety. Yeah, I never felt like, there were very few times I ever felt like I was about to get into a fight or somebody was going to physically harm me. Like very seldom. And there's too many people around, So as far as it reshaping my thought process, I think I just started thinking, this isn't exactly reshaping, I think, but it's more of I got out, I was 49 years old. I can't go back to prison. I'm too fucking old. I can't screw up again. I can't commit crime, because even if I pull off the perfect crime, I never got caught because I screwed up. I got caught because somebody cooperated or something happened that was out of my control. I could not anticipate.
The variable.
Right. I got a fly in the ointment. You cannot account for the fly in the ointment, right? Like I can't plan for that. So as a result, that's a problem. And the other thing is, by behaving like a scumbag, you end up in prison. You're dealing with scumbag people, and you can't deal with scumbag people and not expect scumbag things and bad things to happen to you. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to get out of prison. I'm going to go live in someone's spare room, and I'm going to write stories, and I'm going to do something that I like to do. And if I never make any money, then that's fine. it's not that I would never commit crime again. It's not that, but what I felt like was I was going to go out and I was going to kind of try and make a living, but I didn't think I had to get rich, you know? Now, I definitely thought to myself, if I can't pay my bills, I will commit crime. You know what I'm saying? Like if things go so bad that I can't feed myself, then I'm definitely, I told everybody, I was like, oh, I'll commit fraud. Like if
worst comes to worst.
Worst comes to worst, but I want to try and make this work. And I don't need a lot. Like I realize in prison, I don't need a lot. The things that you think you need to acquire to make you happy, that's not making you happy. Like prior to prison, I had millions of dollars, all the fancy cars, amazing women, all great friends. And then you go to prison and you lose everything and you realize like
Those are all superficial.
It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm committing fraud to buy cars, go on vacations, have money in the bank to impress a bunch of friends that aren't really my friends.
Yeah, yeah.
These guys don't even like me, you know? So and you realize that when you go to prison, it's like, oh, wow, you won't even pick up the phone. And you're not picking up the phone because we committed crime together. You just don't want to be associated with a guy who's in prison. And you know me. So we were never really friends. And I'm not saying anything bad about that person. I'm sure these are all good guys, but they didn't really like me because there was nothing changed about me.
They like you for your money, basically.
They liked me because they were making money with me, or I had money, and I was the guy that always picked up the tab.
Interest, yeah.
I'm always buying. Oh no, I got dinner, bro. I got dinner. Oh yeah, let's go on vacation. I'll pay for everything. I got your tickets. I got this. I got that.
Were
Absolutely.
there any people that stood by you when you were in prison?
Yes, all the people that I didn't expect to. So childhood friends that I basically written off and never really talked to. You know that guy that you talk to twice a year. You don't really hang out with him. That's the guy that comes to see you. That's the guy that puts money on your books. It's amazing the people, and then the best people I met were guys I was locked up with. These are guys I'm still friends with to this day. Guys that get out of prison that immediately want to see me, immediately want to talk to me. When can we hang out? When can we do this? When can we do this? Text me all the time. These are guys that are on federal probation and can get in trouble for texting me. They're like, I don't give a fuck, bro. Like, we're friends. And they never asked me for anything. So that was amazing to me that prior to prison, I had all the money in the world that I wanted. And then I go to prison, I have nothing, and I'm more happy in prison than I was prior to prison with nothing. And honestly, more happy in prison than I probably am today. And that seems weird to say, and hopefully my wife never sees this, because she makes me very happy. But it was a very simple,
less complicated. It's camaraderie, and then it's face to face, basically.
There wasn't TikTok addiction and fake people and people arguing about things that don't matter and stupid stuff none of that mattered. What mattered was I had a great routine. I had a queue where I'm doing your story. I'm going to work on your story for the next 3 months. And then I'm going to work on this guy's story. And then I'm going to work on his story. And I'm talking to this guy on Sunday about his story. And then I'm writing reporters, and I'm working on a book, and I'm getting mail in from Freedom of Information Acts, and I'm investigating stories. Like, I was absorbed in this true crime world and putting together these stories. And it was simple. It was a simple life that was extremely rewarding, even though it never really came with a paycheck. Like, I got book deals. Like, I've got advances from books I've written, and I had option people's life rights, and I got checks. But I don't have I'm not driving a $100,000 sports car, living in a great place. I'm living in a shithole, cell just like everybody else. But it was a simple life, and
it's more rewarding for you.
It was extremely rewarding, and
to tell people's story, your own story, and then to
tell their stories.
Yeah. So after getting released, basically the rebuild, how did you assimilate? Were you easily assimilated to society back? Were you is it hard to get
time.
A job, or were you insecure? Where do I start? From zero again? Were you?
Well, I got lucky. I got 7 months halfway house. So I remember I was initially pissed because I wanted a year. It's I did 13 years. I should get a year halfway house. But I ended up getting 7 months, and it was just enough. I got to the halfway house with $300 that an inmate gave me. So I went to Walmart and I bought $300 worth of clothes. You can completely build an entire wardrobe with $300 at Walmart, by the way.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Back in the
in
day.
shock how cheap everything was. I remember I bought for $30, like $29, I bought 10 black T-shirts. That's $3 a T-shirt, bro. And they were as nice. They worked just as well as any Heinz T-shirt or whatever, true whatever T-shirts or whatever. So they were great. And I bought shoes and I got pants and I still got a pair of blue jeans that I bought at Walmart 6 years ago in the halfway house. So I did that, and I started working at a gym, and probably within a few months, I had optioned someone's life rights while I was in prison, and the option expired, and Warner Brothers optioned it a second time. So my ex-wife calls me and says, because she would receive mail for me.
Oh, okay.
And then she said, hey, I just got a letter from a lawyer. And she says, the same lawyer that sent you that check 18 months ago. And so she opens it up, $6,000. $6,000, I was able to buy a Jeep, get full coverage insurance, put new tires on it, get an oil change, and then I was broke again. But that Jeep got me back and forth to work, and I was able to save money in the halfway house. And by the time I got to the halfway house, I rented someone's spare room. Or it was in a rooming house. There was actually a cop that was going through a divorce who was in another room. And so I did that. I had saved a little chunk of money. I could have got a one-bedroom apartment or something, but I didn't. I wanted to have extra money. I wanted to have a couple $1,000s.
Were you anywhere tempted, like in between those, like
to commit fraud?
Yeah, again. Or?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, I'm struggling, but I'm in the halfway house. There's not much you could do in the halfway house. But I got out. I'm staying in this spare room, and then but things were going good. You know what I'm saying? Like I had a plan. Like in the halfway house, I kind of formulated a plan. Like I figured out
how to live your life.
Well, I figured out what I could do. I could start a true crime podcast, which guys had been telling me to do, but now I got out and I was able to get on YouTube, and I was able to look at Instagram and kind of figured out over the course of 7 months. And I figured I can start a podcast. Like it doesn't have to be what I initially had envisioned it to be. I can just interview other guys. And I started being interviewed by other guys. Like I went on Concrete, that got like 2.1 million views, and I went on
Danny Jones.
Soft White Underbelly, that got like 2 million and change. And then I went on Valuetainment, 2 million. Like all of these ones are getting 1 million, 2 million. I went on Vlad, that got those. He puts them out in parts, so they're all getting.
How was it speaking with Vlad?
Not great. Like he's kind of a jerk. Like,
what made you to speak about your stories? Some people just keep silent, just stay away, just do their own thing.
Well, because I like telling stories. Like I like telling my story. I like telling other people's stories. I don't like that people get out of prison. One, people get prison sentences and they think, oh, it's my life's over.
You want to change your
It's
life.
not that I want to change it. Look, here's the thing. I have people come up to me. I get emails all the time. I have people in the comment section all the time. I have people that come up to me all the time and tell me that, I've changed their life. You're so inspirational. I don't know if you've heard what we've just talked about. I'm not inspirational. I'm not trying to be inspirational. I've never said anything to be inspirational. I'm just telling you what happened with me. And
what it is. Lay it out
this is
there.
just what it is. And I'm just trying to make a living. If people are inspired by that, that's fine. There are some things that bother me that I will speak up on. Like prison's not going to ruin your life. It's just changed it. I promise you, I didn't meet anybody innocent in prison. You put yourself here for some reason. And you can rebuild your life. It may be vastly different. It's all in how you look at it, but I definitely think it's possible. And so I just think that if you work hard and you get out of prison and you're humble and you're appreciative, your life will be irrevocably better. I don't push anything about religion, right? But
Are you religious?
I don't even consider myself religious. I do go to church. And I do think that if you live a good life and you do the right things, that good things will happen to you. My number one priority above everything else is me. So I'm not foolish. I'm not, guy, he'd give the shirt off his back. Well, then he's an idiot because it's going to get cold and I need that shirt. I'm willing to help
first before you help
Absolutely.
others.
There is a reason that they tell you on an airplane that when the oxygen mask falls, put it on yourself before you help your children.
That's true.
Because if you pass out, you're not helping anybody. You have to fix yourself first. I'm more than happy to help anybody as long as it doesn't interfere with my number one priority, which is me. So I have to be okay to help you, and I'm in a better situation to help you if things are going well for me. I mean, just being realistic, And so, but I get all these people all the time like saying I'm inspiring, and I just think that if you live your life, you work hard.
How does it feel though when people come up to you and say that you're inspiring?
It's ridiculous. No? I can't stand it. It gets me emotional and gets me upset and makes me feel like I'm being thanked for something that is absolutely unfounded. So I feel I'm very emotional about that issue because it bothers me, because I could probably bullshit you into thinking that I'm trying to be inspiring, but I'm just trying to make a living. And so it bothers me because I haven't made that effort, and I don't feel like I deserve that appreciation or that compliment, if that makes sense. And I know I'm getting upset right now. So yeah, I just think that, like I said, I just think that if you work hard, I think that I always feel like
you don't feel like you deserve it. Is that why you kind of?
What? Because I'm trying to make a living, and
people get inspired by your story, so they feel affectionate to it. Then maybe they would change their mindset, which kind of because
I agree, but I don't think I'm making an effort to do that. If that
happens, it's not your objective.
It's basically not my objective. So if it's not my objective and it's happening just by chance,
it's just a byproduct.
It's a byproduct, bro. I get a lot more joy when people say, bro, I listen to your stuff all day at work. I lay drywall. I have it on all day. And man, it's super entertaining. And I love to laugh and listen to your stories and listen to these guys that you interview. I get way more inspiration than I do with somebody telling me, somebody telling me how inspiring I am, because I just feel like, come on, man, stop.
So what would you say if I ask you, like, if you have any advice to like young entrepreneurs or anyone, to like, chasing success, like, do you have any, or would you give any advice?
I mean, my problem is my advice is the same thing that any middle-class American father would give their kids, right? It's be humble and appreciative for what you have and work hard. Listen, I love that. I love that saying, like, you know what helps depression? Working hard.
Yeah.
Work hard. You can work yourself out of any situation. And I think had I had that mentality, instead, my thought process was, I'm broke, I need money, commit fraud, commit a crime. A decent person would say, I'm broke, I need money, I'm gonna get a second job. I'm gonna cut back on my expenses. I'm gonna move in my parents' spare room. I'm gonna ask for a loan. I'm gonna come up with a plan. Instead, what I did was, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna commit a massive fraud. That's just a stupid, selfish thing to think.
There's a lot of people that think like you as well, because I work at a liquor store, like I told you. We own a shop. We made really good friends with the customer, and if he put his mind straight, I tell him, like, why don't you just work a proper job, use the creativity that you have through the proper thing, rather than he would work at, like, let's say Adidas. He would sell his clothes on the side while working at Adidas. He would get caught, serve time, but I guess, but some people their mind works.
Yeah, I don't think they don't want to put in that work. They don't want to wait.
They don't want to be under somebody else's, I guess.
But I mean, I think that's being, once again, it's short-term thinking. It's being unappreciative, and it's not being humble.
They're not looking at the bigger picture, basically.
Right. You can listen. It's not hard to become a millionaire in the United States. It's just not. You put away, if you're young and you put away $200 or $300 a month, compound interest will make you a millionaire by the time you retire. I mean, how hard is that? It's a joke, But instead what they do is, hey, for $300 extra, I can get a better car.
Yeah.
Like you're just stupid and selfish. And like, what are you doing? To do what? So that I can have a better car than my buddy and I can impress this girl who doesn't, if you're having to spend more money to get a car to impress a girl, bro, that girl's not worth having. And that's just the truth. But people don't want to see that. If you're living your life based on what other people think or concerned with what other people think, you're going to be very unhappy.
Very unhappy.
And I think, sadly, I don't think...
You just can't live up to the standard. The world changes.
Right. Well,
and their standard changes.
Well, first of all, I don't think I learned that until I went to prison. And I think that, sadly, most people never learn that. They will be 50, 60 years and still concerned about what the neighbors think, or this person thinks, or that. Like,
that will eat you up.
And it goes nowhere. It doesn't. At no point does that ever reach a point where that makes you happy, because someone will always ridicule you. They will always look down on you. They will always judge you. You'll never make enough money. You'll never be a good enough person for some people. And so to try and live your life trying to make those people proud of you in some way, it's just silly.
How do you define making better in your own life now?
Now you're trying to bring it all back together.
Like, how do you kind of define making it better?
Making it better?
Yeah.
I feel like we've said it. I feel like we've said, listen, I'm much more, the more humble I am, and listen, being humble for me, you have no idea of the struggle that is. Because I am extremely arrogant. I am extremely narcissistic. I'm just a selfish prick at heart. So to try and be humble for me is a full-time job. And to be appreciative of the things that I have. Listen, I want to buy a new flashy, cool car so bad, but I don't even have a car. I haven't had a car for 2 years because I do my podcast out of my house. I drove my car 3 times in 2 months one time, over the course of a couple months. And I told my wife, I said, I'm selling my car, bro. I'm selling it. And she was like, really? She's like, why? I said, I drove it once in the last month to go to Publix and back. And I was like, it's $700 a month on a vehicle that's depreciating that I don't need. And the only reason I really have that is the feeling of freedom and the feeling that, yeah, I've got a car and it's a nice car. And I just feel like it's feeding my ego and it's losing me probably $1,000 a month. So I went and sold the car. And I haven't had a car in 2 years, and I am going to go without a car as long as I can. Because most people's identities are tied to their vehicles, their houses, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person. And that's a struggle, because trust me, I want to get into a nice car. It's a great feeling. So I'm always kind of doing that.
Like, it's a balance.
I'm always asking myself, like, did I answer that question because I wanted him to think I was a cool guy? Did I say this because of why? I'm always analyzing kind of like why I do things. And there's many times where I'll call somebody up and say, hey, listen, I thought about it. The answer's no. You know?
If someone's out there listening to this and maybe flirting with some risky decisions, what would you say to them right now? Like, if they're in a certain situation right now, thinking of doing some risky business, what would you say to them?
You mean like committing fraud?
Maybe like they're listening and they're like in the cusp of it, they're like 50-50. Would you say anything to them?
If you haven't committed it yet, I'd figure out a different way. Listen, it doesn't always catch up with you, but when it does, it sucks. And having a felony is horrible. It really does change. It limits your ability in life so much, you have no idea. And you just don't know how you're going to get caught. And even worse, the worst thing is you commit fraud and you get away with it because you become emboldened. And the next fraud is even larger and larger. And every time you get away with it, you're just compounding the issue, because if you get caught 5 years later, you think, oh, I was only stealing $1,000. But when they catch you, they catch that one, and then they catch what you've been doing for the past 2 years, and suddenly you're being indicted for $2.5 million, and you're going, what are you talking about? Yeah, bro. They went back 2 years and added them all up. What did you think was going to happen? It's just and then you go to jail for a couple of years, and now you're a felon, and everybody that you were trying to impress thinks you're a scumbag, and like, bro, just cut back on your bills and do the right thing, and you're in a better situation.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you for being so honest, open, and insightful. Your story is really powerful. Hopefully, my audience learns something from it and then get a chance to like think for themselves, make their life better, better decisions, and then learn from your experience. Even though I know that you're not trying to teach anybody, it's just your own perspective, your own life experience. But anyways, how could they follow you? Is there anything that, where can people follow you, support you, or
And
learn more about you?
I'm on YouTube and Spotify and everything. It's Matthew Cox, Inside True Crime. Like,
Any final words you want to say, or?
I mean, I'm good. I'm through.
All right.
I
Well,
mean,
thank
I
you so
appreciate
much.
you having me come
Hey,
out.
no, really, thank you for doing it. And I know you took out so much time for yourself. Thank you so much.
No
Thank you.
problem.